topic for tonight is the CIO research trends that are going on, and we have some guests with us tonight. And you probably know Mark Taylor, who's here. I will introduce them a little bit, but my partner tonight is Degan Kettles from BYU, also a graduate from ASU. Great job. And our friend Chris Maurer from the University of Virginia. Now, you all have the opportunity over the past 40 years to fill out these IT trends research surveys. All SIM members get the opportunity to fill out this amazing survey. And what we've seen is that these results get compiled by researchers from around the nation, and they get summarized every year into the IT trends survey. And all SIM members have access to those reports. And if I can make sure to do this right, let's see here. Check this out, another incredible link for you in here. And this is where you can find on the SIM website the history of all of the summary reports. So we're going to be looking at some historical data today, but you can go there and sign into the SIM and get access to these. So the thing about these is that it takes a look at what's been happening in 5 major areas. Tonight we're going to look primarily in the realm of CIOs, but before that I wanted to introduce one of the authors of the study. It's Chris Maurer. Chris, would you please talk a little bit about the IT trend study and the demographics and what can people expect from the validity of the data that they get?
Sure, thanks, Dan. Before I talk about the demographics as a whole, I just want to personally say how awesome the Arizona chapter is. I did a little bit of digging here before the meeting. Some quick statistics for you. In 2020, ranked #1, best large chapter in terms of response rate with 62 responses. 2019, ranked #2, just barely got edged out, but also with 62 responses. 2018, #1 large chapter. And in 2017, you were actually considered a small chapter. You just fell below the cutoff point for the small versus large. So you were only ranked #6 because some of the chapters that only have 30 members, they can get 18 of those members to complete it, and their response rate goes a little bit higher. But all of us, the SIM research fellows that collect this data, that do this analysis, are deeply indebted to everyone that participates, but in particular the Arizona chapter. You guys really rock. And so we're looking forward to a nice high response rate again in 2021. But that being said, in terms of the entire study as a whole, so you can see on the screen that this is quite comprehensive. We're typically in the neighborhood of about 24% response rate. And this is obviously going out to people like you, CIOs, IT leaders. It's really hard to convince people to do surveys and provide this kind of data. And response rates in the neighborhood of 24, 25% is almost unheard of when we're talking about an audience such as yourselves. So again, the team is deeply indebted to each of you for participating each year. And what the slide doesn't show is the breadth of organizations that are involved in this study. So we're collecting data from organizations that span more than 30 different economic sectors, anywhere from publicly traded companies, private, nonprofit, all the way, I think the largest revenue, we're talking in the hundreds of billions of dollars, down to the hundreds of thousands of dollars in terms of revenue. So we have small organizations, large organizations, all different types involved. And really what this allows us to do is truly have faith that this is a true, accurate cross-section of what organizations and businesses are facing across this country. So it's perhaps the most comprehensive study of IT issues and IT practices across the country. And again, we really can't do this without you. And so we really appreciate all that you have done to contribute to this and hope that you'll continue to support this in the future. So I'm not going to steal any thunder from my colleagues and Dan and others. I'll let them dig into some of the more meaty parts of some of the 2020 data that was uncovered. But with that, I'll turn it back over to Degan Kettles from BYU and back to you, Dan.
Awesome, thank you. All right. So Chris, thanks for spending some time. I know you've got another meeting to go to, so you have I don't know if it's another sim chapter, but have a great one. Thanks for hanging by.
Yeah, I'll hang on for another 15, 20 minutes or so if there's any other questions that come up for me.
Excellent. Thank you. So in the trend study, one of the key areas of focus is around chief information officers. And obviously the pinnacle position for an IT professional would be in this space. And what the study has been showing is pretty steady between 2010 and 2015. We've been seeing that about 90% of CIOs have come from a previous position that was in IT. In other words, they didn't come from another area of the business. But something started to happen around 2015 where we're seeing a trend now where about 25% of the CIOs are coming from an area outside of IT for the first time. So we were at 1 in 10 for a decade, and now we're starting to see 1 in 4 are coming from a non-IT role. So Dagan, there was another trend that was shown. Why don't we talk about this one?
That's right. In addition, we've seen an increasing trend where more and more CIOs are being hired from outside of the firm. And what this means is that only 20% of CIOs are being promoted from within their organization. And the significance of these trends have not gone unnoticed by SIM leadership. And with that, let's turn the time over to Mark Taylor, CEO of SIM.
Thank you. And Dan, I think we found some really interesting trends in here, and we've asked the team to take a deeper dive. I think as you look at these data points, and what's a couple on here, it does show some long-term trends, and particularly this one about the inside versus outside. You can see that it's leveled off over the last few years, but it's still a dominant number. So as you're thinking about your future or those that you're leading, you can begin to understand the impact and possibly the necessity of stepping outside of your current organization if your appetite is to step up into those ultimate leader, CIO, higher level executive roles. And the other thing that stands out around this is that first data point that Dan pointed to, that there's this trend towards the 25% now coming from non-CIOs, flat for many, many years, and then taking this trend upwards. 20, it dropped a bit, but I think that we can probably right now kind of peg that on COVID, on the variation, kind of not sure exactly why that changed a little bit, but we're still in this 25% range, and it's notable. And I think, in each of these, I look at them as, let's call them challenges, threats, but at the same time, opportunities for those within our community, and also indicators about what pathways may be necessary, but it also draws a whole lot of questions, because at this point, even those thoughts that I've shared are anecdotal thoughts of my own as we've talked about these data points. So it brings up some questions, and we've asked the leadership team, Dan and the others, and Chris, to look further into why is it happening? What's driving the executive team to look outside for IT leadership? Does the IT profession have a problem? Is there some challenge that we're overlooking that we need to have our eye on and be tuned into? And certainly that's worth a deeper dive. Dan, the next one?
Yep.
And is it time to re-examine the traditional career path for the CIO? I think that question is, yeah, it's time to look and go, what's changed in this environment? Number 5, how can IT professionals manage or overcome the trend? And then number 6, what should SIM be doing about it? And I think ultimately we're looking at this with the research and the data that we've surfaced. We sense that there's something we as an organization need to be doing to help our members address the issue within their own careers. Dan, great work so far. And Chris, your team has done some remarkable job with these years of servicing incredible trends. And Dan, I'll hand it back for you guys to continue this, the deeper dive.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you coming by and putting some validation to this, because this is a concern for us. And I have a special spot about CIOs. I mean, fundamentally, Chris and Dagan and I are in the business of creating the next generation of business leaders. And what should we be doing? And then I'm also obviously, all of us on this phone, on the Zoom call, have a concern about this. So here's what we're going to be doing for the rest of the night. We're going to be trying to get information about what your feelings, your sentiment about this. We're going to get some sharing going on in groups. So we're going to set up some breakout rooms where you'll be able to, in a more intimate way, describe what some thoughts and brainstorming ideas that you have. We're going to present two mini little cases, and they're on purpose, too short, on purpose, very compelling and pushing you on edge. Okay, I want you just to go with the flow and say, you've got 5 minutes to answer this question. Okay, and it'll help us, because what we're hoping to get out of this and the answers to these questions is to help us guide a longer term and strategic research agenda with all of the members of the SIM academic group. So we'll have a call to action at the end and a Q&A. And with that, I think that's the last of the slides that we have for you tonight. All right.
I'm still impressed.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Right.
No, it's
Right. So everybody is back. So let me see if we can do this again here. I'm clicking on the share screen. And now what we've done is hopefully you can see this, that we've collected everybody's top 3 for this question. And then I do this and everybody moves around, and this is, I apologize. Okay, there you all are. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to take a look at some highlights of the first 3. Degan's going to look at some highlights of the last 3. Group 1, the big reason looks like their top reason is that they're part of the executive team and strategic partner for technology solutions, and that's absolutely awesome. Laura, what do you want to say about that? And you got to go unmute.
Yes, I unmuted myself. Okay. Well, yes, actually, it was a team consensus. When this topic came up, we all agreed that they have the seat at the table and they have the skill set and the voice to help bring technology solutions to the business and help enable what the business strategy and goals are. So why wouldn't they be there? Is pretty much our take on it.
Good. Thank you. And I sensed a little bit of like, why wouldn't they, like that was a bad question kind of a thing, huh? Yeah. and that's
not
okay.
at all.
And that's okay, because we're doing this to try to elicit a response. We want I'm hoping that those graph elicited some sort of response in you and in your career, right? So we're looking for that. Then in group 2, Derek was saying that the issue of key strategy requires, I love it, that there's some sort of strategy there. And then Mary, you said there's a technology component. Explain a little bit more about technology.
Well, there's in this particular discussion, we did not assume that we assumed that it was a casual discussion that was happening somewhere for someone to have overheard it. So it wasn't a strategic type of a meeting. And so there was a need for either technology, meaning applications, or it certainly could be a hardware related if it was something to do with a end using computing type of devices. But there, the remark was made because there was a technology component needed to fulfill the conversation that was being overheard.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So, Chris, I'll turn it over. Degan, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So we see in group 4, their top 2 seem pretty straightforward: security, information policy. That makes sense. Executive politics with an asterisk. Chris, comment on that?
I just put that in as kind of a, I mean, what if the CIO is best friends with the CEO and to get...
I can't hear him.
Oh, you moved away from your mic.
You're like Bluetooth, didn't like the distance or something.
Okay, hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So it's just the fact that perhaps to get a decision moved forward, the CEO wanted the CIO at the board with him. So it was kind of a play on the executive part.
All right, thank you. We see in group 5 some similar types of ideas: security again, and then 2 other things impacting technology. So straightforward, that makes sense. Let's jump down to group 6, business direction, partnerships, possible compliance, and cyber issues. So in all 3 groups, we saw security come up. Is there anything that you wanted, Christopher Sola, anything you wanted to highlight from your discussion, or is it sufficient?
Just based on my former experience of the CIO is typically never involved in all the discussions that they would like to be involved in. And I don't know if I had a category for that, but
Okay. We'll get to that.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah, I was just going to say with Chris Leverett, I thought yours was a good point about, the first rule of any business process is first identify the eventual scapegoat. So maybe that's what you would. I'm sorry, that's 37 years of experience. Okay.
No.
All
I agree.
right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to move on to the next question, and the next question is going to be we're going to send you into the group. So TJ, a grand total of 5 minutes. So that means you set your timer for 3, and I'm going to turn it on. So on your mark, get set, go. So group one is saying IT is too slow, that they're a barrier. That's their number one answer. There's a lack of trust in the CIO or a lack of skills. And then there's a strong business stakeholders think they understand technology. Okay, there you go. Jessica, do you want to comment on your team's discussion and opportunities and challenges here?
Sure, yeah, we had a good dialogue, and it's interesting because we were observing the fact that it was easier to talk about the CIO who wasn't invited over the CIO who was invited, which I think speaks to some of the challenges that our group has experienced personally. But yeah, I think oftentimes there's a perception is reality circumstance where the business doesn't have an understanding of how an early partnership can benefit the entire effort. So that can either be a shortcoming of that CIO, or it can be a lack of opportunity to really provide that clarity and give that information to the business on how they can be a support. So that's really, I think, at the foundation of all of these.
Thank you. All right, so group 2, your number one thing was that a CIO is not considered a business partner. And ousting the CIO. Okay, so Rich, why don't you chime in and share some color around this one?
Yeah, I think, as we go in with our group, we've got, a few CIOs in the group. And I think we've experienced in the past where the CIOs often does not even a direct report to the CEO. Often the CIO will be a report to the COO. And so a lot of times that the CIO is actually not considered part of the C-suite business partnership. They're just looked at as a tech manager, and often, they're not considered whenever we were looking at a decision that involves making, anything that tech decisions. And additionally, as well as if they're having conversations that, perhaps they don't want to involve the CIO initially.
What do you think about that?
I mean, I've seen it firsthand happen. I think it's critical for the business. I personally think it's critical for the business to have the CIO as a business partner and have a seat at the leadership table. But I think too often we see that it's not happening, or they feel like they know better. I think that's a bigger case of it as well, is that the senior who they would consider the senior execs would not include the CIO, and the senior execs like the COO and the CEO feel that together they can make business decisions or technology decisions on the behalf of the CIO, and then just hand the orders down to the CIO for implementation.
And actually, Rich, I've seen a lot of CIOs report directly to CFOs, not CEOs, because the IT function is often considered a cost center and not a value creation center.
Yep.
So one of the links to the report, you can take a look. That's one of the charts that they have, is who a CIO reports to, and you can look at the trend of that over time as well to see. So do you think that's a key area, is who a CIO reports to?
I think it's a bit. I do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Awesome. Group 3. Being replaced by a new CIO. Thank you, Kim. Yep. Concerned the CIO will kibosh it. Kibosh it? I'm not. Yeah. And then and I love this one. Maybe the CIO is being recognized for an award. So we'll star that one. That's pretty funny. Murph, talk to us about this. A CIO will kibosh it, caboose it. tell me how to pronounce it.
Actually, these didn't sort right. Our number one.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll fix it
reason
right now. I'll fix it right now. Okay, here we go. Is this?
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, our number one reason, and we had a discussion around what the comments that were made in the question, whether or not they were exclusionary, and they seem pretty exclusionary, and so that might have reflected on the culture in the organization as to why they would exclude the CIO. They just aren't very inclusionary. And then the second one, same kind of thing, just might be a lack of trust in the CIO, or that they might overspend, or throw some shade on whatever project is they're talking about.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like security, the Department of No.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, is a problem.
It's yes and.
All right. So Degan, why don't you take some cherry picking some things on the last three groups?
All right. So group 4, #optimists, maybe with that number 3. They don't want to distract the CIO from other critical matters. A lot of the other stuff seems a little bit more ominous from many of the reasons, but not that one. Janae, did you have anything that you wanted to highlight from your group's discussion?
Yes, so our number one reason was, again, executive politics. And for the second reason, organizational structure. So kind of similar to group 2's answer, maybe the CIO is not a direct report to the CEO. So maybe he's not considered like an executive partner in major organizational decisions. And for number 3, perhaps the CIO is already presently heavily occupied with other critical matters in the organization, and maybe the broader executive team wouldn't want to distract the CIO from those responsibilities.
Awesome. Thank you. If we could jump down to group 5, it looks like their number one item was explore a new market or service without considering the IT impacts that might prevent moving forward. That's a very interesting statement. Do we have a spokesperson who could say a little more?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's similar to the kiboshing it. Like they want to do something, and they know that they maybe don't want to get the IT team to get their input on the cost, or maybe the security, or implement it some kludgy way.
Okay. So is it then they're just trying to get around IT by not including them?
Exactly.
I'm starting to get concerned.
Like they want to
signed.
sell the idea and then make IT implement it basically later. So like they know IT needs to do it, but they kind of want to get it sold before it gets, I can't remember one of the people said what the wet blanket theory.
They don't want to hear all the this is why you can't do this, this is why you can't do that.
Right. They just want to get it done and then figure out how to actually implement it later.
All right.
Yeah, and with the cherry on the cake, which is they'll also tell you the solution they want you to put in.
Exactly.
And the vendor, by the way.
Right, no, they've already signed the contract. That's
exactly.
the problem.
Exactly.
You go and implement this. Oh, thanks.
Let's get her done.
Okay. And for group 6, I think the answers are relatively straightforward and may repeat some other themes. So if we're on a time crunch, then I think we could go on to the next one, Dan.
Yep. Okay. So the next question should be, so group 1, Alan said some things about why don't you highlight some stuff, Alan, that your team thought was good?
Oh, great. Now you're going to make me remember what I said, huh?
Yeah, okay.
I think one of the things I had said was I think advice to a CIO would be the importance of really being able to speak in the business language and understand how to build a business case around why you're backing and pushing the initiatives that you are. Because if you just talk in technology, the CEO and CFO and the other people that are part of the senior leadership are going to zone out and they won't really get it. But a flip side of that is also being able to help them understand what is the potential cost to the organization if you don't invest in these initiatives right now, because as we all know, IT fixes down the road are a lot more expensive than doing things the right way from early on. So.
Excellent. Thank you. It looks like those are group 2 had incredibly similar responses, well worded there. And then group 3, focus on the deep dive, knowing into business. So it seems like we've got a big trend is the reality and the business side of things. It seems to be an important thing. All right, Degan, what did you see in group 4 and 5?
In 4 through 6, a couple of them near the top mentioned things like networking, communication. And I wanted to just open it up for a second here, and as it relates to all of the answers they gave collectively, are any of your answers related to that overall theme outside of networking, which is why is it that CIOs are being hired from outside the organization or outside IT? Do any of these answers seem to answer that question?
I think the previous question answered that more, actually.
Yeah.
Which is the business people don't think IT speak the business language. They don't understand the business.
Yeah.
They're geeky, you know. That's the problem. People feel much more, the C-suite feels more comfortable hiring people who speak their language, even if they're not tech savvy. Frankly.
Yeah, Deegan, I'm not sure we directly answered it in that regard. I will tell you that the one we put on there, risk taking, I interviewed a CEO last fall in our CXO series that we do, and Shelley Archambault, and we asked her, what's the number one trait you look for in a CIO? And she said, a risk taking, not just blatant, crazy risk taking, but the ability to take the right kind of risks that deliver a high return. And that was the number one thing they look for in a CIO. I added to that my personal areas around financial aptitude. And that's, I think, when you can command and understand the difference between revenue, expense, and connect that to the balance sheet and the other goals of the organization, you can command the room.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to say something about, I can't remember who said it. Was it Alan, maybe, about business cases? One of the things IT are not very good at is articulating the cost of not doing something. Okay, so we do a lot of business cases about, you know, cost benefit thing, but don't often talk about the cost of inaction, or or not doing a certain strategy, which I think we should do a lot more of.
Thank you.
All right, awesome.
Dan,
Thank you. Okay, good. Awesome. Thank you. So this was a very difficult question, and you were not given enough time. And again, that's on purpose. I know that it's uncomfortable, and you want to have a day to do these things, but the purpose is to try to get to the most important thing. And so it looked like for group one, they put down business savvy in terms of the industry, financial justification in your organization, and for SIM to broaden discussions around finance, business topics, and case studies. That was group one. We've got group two talking on business outcomes, similar, developing business savvy, and addressing leadership blind spots. I think that is also a very awesome perspective to have. And then we've got listening, business aligned roadmap, and shared experiences, relevant business. Yep. No, these are good things. These are all great things. All right, Degan.
In 4 through 6, originally I was seeing just simply being more in line with understanding the business, and then the answers have become more nuanced as people are updating their answers. But I think they still relate to that original idea. Although in group 4, it says have an open mind to external hires and varying backgrounds. I wish we had time to dig into that a little bit more. Embrace the trade-off and new trend in what's happening. Group 5, it ends with be more business focused. Be bridge builders at the organizational level. SIM can help foster the above mentioned changes. Last group, listen and anticipate business trends. Make everyone aware about the relationship between business and IT. So again, business alignment. Last one, SIM could help educate people.
Awesome. Well, we are at a place where what we've got left to do is I have a little bit of a homework question for you. And usually the most important aspect of this, while we all shared an awful lot of information, is the introspection. What do you do in response to these trends after this conversation? So we certainly want you to have that as a takeaway. We also are going to be collecting all of the information and sending it out. So if you did on your on the members sheet, you've got your email. We will be sending out all of the answers to all of the questions in one thing to an email. And if you're interested in further discussion, we do have a team of researchers that are working on this. And I think we only scratched the surface tonight. This is the first, you're the first city that we tried this program out on. And we really appreciate the effort and the energy in putting all of these things together. And I think there's some really rich topics. One thing we're going to do tonight, though, that's different from last time is we're going to end on time, but also keep the rooms open and hang out and see if the people want to mill around and chat a little bit more. We're going to open this up. Mark, did you want to add anything?
Hey, had a great time to be a part of this, Dan. Thanks a bunch for. Am I muted? Am I not muted?
You're good. We hear you fine.
Good deal. All right. Sorry, it kept flashing up that I was muted. Listen, Dan, had a great time. It was good to meet the entire gang, spend the evening with you. Great conversation. Look forward to getting the results.
Okay. We will continue to work on those things. So, Bipin.
Oh, thank you, Dan. And thanks, Mark, for joining us. And like Dan said, if you guys want to hang out, have a chat about it, please feel free to do so. And as always, send us feedback from a SIM perspective. How we did, how we're doing. We always appreciate it. Thank you all. Yeah, it was good. I think we got some rich information. So quick question to you, Dan and Dagan. Was there anything that came out of left field for you guys? Was there anything in line with what you saw, hearing?
Well, now the way we did it was so that we could have all the data to look at later. My just gut impression, initial reaction, is that it's something that probably people know, and that's that IT needs to speak the language of business and be well versed in things like finance and accounting and things like that. And potentially people that come up through the IT organization are, and again, I'm just speculating here if I'm jumping ahead to what we'll discover at the end of the day. People coming up through IT organizations that have certifications and Cisco networking and stuff like that just may not be, be sufficiently fluent in business related issues. So that's what I suspect might be coming out.
I think that we're going to end up with the question of, okay, great, but how?
Well, and that's actually a good question too, right? Which you get to the how when you know the what, right? And you've recognized that something potentially needs to change. So Bipin, the answer to your question from my perspective is, first of all, it's wrong for a researcher to say, was this what we expected? Okay. Because we're supposed to be finding out, but my gut is no, it was the kind of stuff that we expected to hear a little bit for sure. But some of the purpose of these questions was to guide the decision-making so that the leaders on their own kind of develop a plan for what to do. I don't know any IT professional that listens to a researcher to tell them what to do, ever. Okay, but it's another thing to come alongside and to maybe guide people along to what is the thing to do. I mean, the data seems clear that we've got some challenges. I remember one time at a CIO forum that one of the CIOs at one of the big hotel firms said, I finally got my seat at the table. I was invited to the board meeting. I sat down at the big oval table for my very first meeting, and the finance guy slid his laptop over to me and said, I'm having trouble getting my email. He said, I died 1,000 deaths. And that stuck with me. And it wasn't, I mean, I get chills when I hear it. My heart wrenches because we know we can do so much more. I think that as IT executives, we have all of the data. We know all of the processes. We know more about the business globally probably than other people do. And I'm not sure that we have that we've come forward with as much of the value propositions and the driving of the next generation of innovation and revenue generation or reduction in things as we could. And I know it's difficult. But that trend, when you start seeing that only 20% of CIOs get promoted from within, that's dismal for a career path, right? I mean, that's just terrible. And then to see so many where we're not hiring CIOs anymore, right? We're going to go and get someone else, that they're looking for something different. That's what screams at it to me without knowing. And we wanted to try to get to why.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then you and I have talked about it. If you look at the numbers, the timelines, starting 2015, it said around that time or before that is when the whole notion about digital, cloud, and all of that come together. So CIOs generally were all back office operators, fixing the stuff. Now is the conversation where digital solutions can actually create value, not just as a cost center, but you can create new service lines, business lines, and business getting value out of technology. And then people just quickly went to, oh, maybe we need to have a CDO. That conversation is kind of dying down. I remember when I was interviewed, I got questions as to, what about CMO? How will you interact with CMO? Is that going to be a problem for you, and digital and all that stuff? But like you said, and you and I had the conversation, I think the step would be for the CIOs. I feel CIOs as a practicing CIO, we are in a unique place to see the challenges across the organization. I think what we need to do better is translation, because we speak a different language. And in the previous world, if you know about it, we had roles like BSA, and then we opted to BRM, and then now we are like, CIO needs to be the business guy. So there is an evolution that is happening, which will
I will say one other thing, and from that timing perspective too, of the concept of digital and marketing and all of that, is that we have a lot of business users who realize and are consumers of technology that they can see, and they go, why can't my engineering team do that? And so they already know what's possible. And so that conversation is very different from, hey, here's my problem, just give me the solution, to I already know what I think I want, just copy that. And then they want to ask why you can't deliver on it. Kathy, you're muted.
You're on mute. Yep.
Thank you. I had barking a moment ago in the background, and I was trying to spare you that. As we're having this conversation, I'm remembering something that I learned from a military fellow who was assigned to the business that I was involved with at the time. And he talked about the military model of development and coaching as you move through the ranks. First, it's depth, then breadth, then leadership. And unfortunately, in the IT space, it is unusual to get breadth. You get more and more depth, more and more expertise. So making that transition to leadership, there can be some missing cards in your playing hand. And maybe the kind of a wild idea is that we need to start to figure out how to get some rotational opportunities as one moves up the ranks, because then you start being able to walk in the shoes of the other business leaders.
Cool insight.
Thanks. Barry, you got anything you wanted to say, or Mary? I mean, I know, Mary, you're in this every day.
Yeah, Mary, I was thinking of the chart you had the other day.
Really enjoying listening, and that the conversation is actually a tad more complex in real life than when we just talk about it. Certainly the communication skills, our business management skills is something that we all know we have, that all CIOs, all business leadership has to work on. It's a change of perception. It's a mindset shift that's going to take effort and time, and it just can't happen because I said so.
No, it's definitely a personal growth thing, because as you move up the ranks, it becomes a lot less doing it for yourself. Then you hit that hurdle where you have to, first of all, learn how to delegate, and then come to terms with the fact that it's less about you being able to deliver and more about helping other people deliver. And that is a long journey.
That's the internal side, TJ. Absolutely right. It's on the external side. There's a long ingrained perception of the business as to what IT's role is. It is a perception that IT is an order taker, and they're there to do our bidding as opposed to partner with us. And that's where the CIO's biggest job is is in establishing the strength and credibility of him or herself and the team of which, you know, reports to him. So it's kind of a top-down problem in this case that is supported by a bottom-up. I say this all the time: a CIO is only as good as his direct reports.
So Sherry, I'll get to you, but I just wanted to introduce Mary Sumner is joining us. She's in St. Louis area, I'm not sure, but she is the actual leader of all SIM academic programs that are happening. So like 50, 60 practitioners report to Mary. So thanks for coming, Mary. I know that you had another meeting to get to. We're wrapping up, but you're welcome to join, and you're still on mute. So Sherry, say what are your thoughts?
I was just going to add, I agree with all the dialogue about being able to speak the language. I thought Bipin's comments were spot on about just being able to have the kind of conversations between biz and tech. And I have seen, and Dan, I think I shared this with you, we have a CIO who actually started in tech and then went over and ran our HR department for a period of time. And truly, I do believe that was really critical. At the time that she was going through that, she and I had a lot of conversation, and she even talked about it's absolutely critical to be able to build that. It's not just about, right, being able to speak the language in that instance. It was really about building the credibility. It was about really understanding what it is that that really speaks on the business side, and then being able to take that learning and we were talking about it in our breakout, just being able to bring that back in business language to really be able to cover. It's a bridge, and Kathy and I were talking about it when we were in our breakout, just how important that bridge building is. And so I just, as I was thinking about it, I was thinking our CIO did that very thing. I know you all know that I've been doing that in our organization. I was fortunate enough to keep technology responsibility, but sit on the business side. And I'm telling you, it has made all the difference for me in relationships with our C-suite. Just being able to have a different voice that I really didn't have before when I was fully having tech responsibilities, sitting on the tech side.
Nice.
Laura, I'm not sure if you're there and wanted to chime in and say anything.
Oh, I'm still here. I'm listening to everyone, and I echo a lot of your thoughts. Personally, you know, I've always taken a very proactive approach about reaching out to the C-suite and partnering with them and speaking their language and understanding what their pain points are and what drives them to success and what they have as visions for the company, and becoming a listener and a solution person for that vision. That's what drives everything about what I do. So it pretty much echoes everything that you're all saying there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll collect all this information and send it out. And if you, the last checkbox on that membership tab is if you want to get contacted by Mary's crack team of CIO researchers across the nation, and as they come up with some more surveys and interviewing. I know that there's a team of people led by Tony Girth that want to do interviews. And so we can expose you. So if you got a last second chance to click that you want to be contacted, we will put your contact information in there and see what we can do to help with that. Cool. Otherwise, I think we've covered a lot tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you, about the tech. We had some tech failures there. I hope that it wasn't too detrimental to the conversation. And of course, we also never have enough time for something like this.
I think we all understand the tech issues, and this is a group that realizes that it's going to happen sometimes. Great session. Thank you all.
Great job.
That was really good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I need to scoot. I have to sign off. Thank you again.
Right, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Laura.
you, everyone. See you next month. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Hey, Bob.
Bye.
Thank you, Dan. Good job.
Thank you.